everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sonia's News. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers to my channel and for you guys coming on, listening to me talk and share my thoughts and feelings out there to the world with you, and I appreciate your support. So you remember a couple of days ago how I was on and I was talking about NASA and how they're going to set up their own UAP task force, supposedly independent from the government's UAP task force, that they're going to study their own and whatever. So, and how I was saying that was such a joke. So I was going through some of my magazines and my books today, and I came across this chapter in Fate magazine titled UFOs and NASA, the best evidence. So I'm going to read a couple of things to you guys from this chapter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read a little bit of it. This section I'm reading right now is called Mitchell's Testimony, which is Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, was the sixth man to walk on the moon. Let's see. I'm going to skip a little bit of it. It talks about how he was always outspoken on the subject and how the extraterrestrial issue is handled in some circles of the military and government. And he goes on to say, I have met with credible professionals within two governments who have testified to their own first-hand experience with close encounters. They include members of military intelligence and governments whose official duties involved the extraterrestrial presence. As is expected, they were all bound by strict security agreements which prevented them from disclosing any of this. Mitchell has also stated that military personnel with whom he has spoken have seen actual alien bodies in the course of their duties. Dr. Mitchell appeared as a guest on my talk show recently. I asked him about the continuing cover-up, conspiracy, and truth embargo related to the UFO phenomenon. He had this to say: There has been, as we both know, considerable evidence within most governments to suppress this information and to limit what is being said about it. Let's hope that is coming to an end. I doubt it. And then it goes on to another section that talks about Gordon Cooper. I'm pretty sure you guys know who he is too. He's an astronaut. It says Gordon Cooper sees UFO landing. In 1965, Gordon Cooper orbited the planet 22 times on the last single manned space mission. In 1955, Cooper was stationed at Edwards Air Force Base while supervising the filming of a new landing facility for F-86 fighter jets. He and his crew observed a disc-shaped object that hovered close to the ground, extended 3 retractable landing gear, and set down near the runway. The film crew approached and continued filming. Cooper states that the craft then lifted off the ground, retracted its gear, and soared off into the sky. When he developed the film, it clearly showed the event he had witnessed. The film was then sent to Washington, where it was classified and remains so to this day. When asked about the current location of the film and other evidence of UFOs captured by the Air Force, Cooper said that within the government, the military, it was impossible to learn where such documents were sent unless you were directly involved, and he was not. I was speaking recently at a conference on the subject of comparative UFO mythology of Asian and Middle Eastern traditions. After the talk, an older gentleman approached me and told me of his involvement with the Apollo mission as a communications engineer. His duties were to repair and maintain the two-way radios in the spacesuits used by the astronauts on the lunar surface. During a training exercise at NASA, he overheard a conversation between two astronauts on their helmet transmitters. They were talking about a briefing they had had the day before about the reality of UFOs. NASA told all the Apollo astronauts about unknown crafts that had been seen in space on previous missions, and that they were not ours. The briefing was done about 2 weeks before blastoff, so they would have time to adjust to this new reality and prevent any panic if and when they saw alien spacecraft during their mission. NASA most likely gave them instructions on how to handle their radio communications and photography in the event of a sighting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they told them to switch channels so the public couldn't hear, switch over to a private channel. And as far as photography, any photography came back that was downloaded, they airbrushed those images out before they released them to the public. That's how NASA handled it. But of course, they're all about discovering life and going to other planets and colonizing. But yet, they tell astronauts stuff like this. they see crafts coming here. They're clearly not ours, especially back in 1955. You know, we didn't have this technology back in 1955. There's no way we had this. And they just keep it a secret, but yet not supposed to be the company that's supposed to go out and discover life. That's what they're taking our tax dollars to do, to go out there and discover life, spending our tax dollars, but yet they turn around and spend our tax dollars to keep it a secret from us. Let me go on to the next chapter. It was seen NASA secretly briefed most, if not all, of the Apollo astronauts to this day, and some will only talk about it off the record. Then it goes on to the evidence. The photographic evidence NASA has released is even more compelling. For instance, in this photograph taken on Apollo 15, which I'm going to show you the photograph. The view of lunar module at the Hadley Apennine landing site is unusual, not because of what is there, but because of what is missing. While poring over the thousands of photos at Johnson Space Center in Houston, I came across this image and it caught my eye. The entire top portion of the photo has been cut off, obscuring the upper portion of the spacecraft and the hill and sky behind it. What could have been so secret to require crudely doctoring this photo image? Perhaps reports of multiple UFOs hovering near Apollo landing sites are true. So, if you can see here, this is the lander, and you clearly see they cut off this top part, which is, it is strange. They cut off that top part. I mean, why not just show the whole image? And I think right here he had managed to find an image that wasn't cut off, but you can't really see anything because it's a small image. But maybe up above in the background there were UFOs hovering, because there were astronauts who reported seeing crafts when they were on the moon that was watching them when they were standing like above the rim of a crater. So yeah, that is weird that they released that picture like that, cut off. I don't know if anybody ever questioned, like, why did you cut the top of the photo off before you released it to the public? So yeah. Let me see. And then, okay, so then the next photo, we see evidence of what could be ancient alien ruins on the surface of the moon. In this rarely seen NASA image, we see the lunar surface with very clear, sharply pointed shadows extending what appear to be high mountains. On closer inspection, I have noticed that whatever is making these extremely symmetrical shadows is in contrast with the rough and jagged shadows that appear everywhere else. It must be a mountain of unusual height and shape. Moreover, three together suggest an artificial quality similar to the three pyramids at Giza. If these shadows appeared on Earth, it would be easier to believe they were man-made, but on the moon, our conditioned response prevents us from considering a broader explanation. So this is, if you can see this is what the author is talking about. You see these three triangle shadows right there? He's talking about those. And yeah, you can definitely see there's like triangle shaped objects. And they had to be pretty large for the satellite to take a picture from where it was to the ground of the moon. So you can see the shadow cast. So yeah, right there, that's what he's talking about. And then it goes on to talk about, oh, you guys remember that face on Mars that came out? I believe that was, I think that was in the 70s, I believe it's in this book. What it talks about in here? Possible artificial structures have been photographed on the surface of Mars as well. At right bottom in the official NASA photograph, yeah, taken by the Viking 1 orbiter on July 25th, 1976, from a distance of 1,162 miles. Viking 1 was photographing in areas in the northern hemisphere looking for possible landing sites for Viking 2. The official explanation for the face-like appearance of this mile-wide rock formation is simply a shadow effect. So you guys remember this right here. It's supposed to be right here, the face somewhere. I mean, it clearly does look like a face. You can see like the little mouth right there, and then the eye on the other side. So I mean, it could definitely be a face on Mars. So, but of course, you know, NASA's never going to admit to it. To this day, they still don't admit to it. They just say it's shadows and wind erosion, whatever they want to say. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, then there's another structure in this book. So, where is? Oh, okay. Here it is. A very rare newspaper clipping. See opposite. A very rare newspaper clipping shows a 1965 photograph from the Soviet Zond 3 spacecraft. It seems to show a disc-shaped craft orbiting the moon. What struck me about this photo were the shape and features of the UFO. I knew I had seen this one before, but where? I searched through my collection of UFO pictures from around the world until I found the picture with the craft that looked exactly like it. So, you can see right here. This is the moon. This is the UFO right here. This was captured in 1965 by a Russian satellite. But then you go down here. This was taken in, I believe, in 1972 through the Lago Dakota, Costa Rica aerial mapping photograph. So it says, in the back of my mind, this is the author again. I seem to recall yet another photograph with the same UFO. It appears on the first page of this article. This photograph was from Apollo 16 in 1972 on the approach to the moon. Seems to show a UFO with the same characteristics. Could this be evidence of a craft intent on being pictured multiple times? Let's see. Okay, so yeah, this one was 1965. This one was 1972. And now, like I said, the one at the bottom was taken by the Costa Rican government through their office mapping aircraft of the Costa Rican government on September. Am I reading this right? Hold on. Yeah, it was taken by an official mapping aircraft of the Costa Rican government on September 4th, 1971, while flying at 10,000 feet altitude over a body of water known as Lago Dakota. So yeah, 1965, 1972, and then in the front of this article, again, the same type craft was captured by Apollo 16 taking on their approach to the moon. They captured that image. I'm surprised that they got that image out. I don't know what they said it was, but they got it out. At least the astronauts got it out. So yeah. Let me see what else goes on. So yeah, how weird is that, you guys? The same UFO type object captured in taken by three different satellites. One by the Apollo 16 mission, one by the Soviet Union satellite in 1965, and then 1972 in Costa Rica. Yet, NASA still continues to keep a secret from us. But this is what our tax dollars go to. Capturing these images, and they airbrush them out before they release them to the public. But that's amazing. I mean, because that UFO looks exactly the same in all three photos. And those are some good images. I mean, look at those images. I mean, that is a clear image of a silver disc UFO. And then right there. And then the one by the Apollo astronauts. That's amazing. Who's flying them? I don't know. But you definitely know there ain't ours from those 3 years. Not from 1965. And definitely not from 1972 either. Let me see what else. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Because I think that's the end of the chapter. Had NASA definitely knows about these things, and them coming out saying that they're going to study UAPs and have their own independent habit. That's just the front. It's just the front. They've already collected the information. They've already captured these things on images, on photography, on video, and they definitely know that some of these things are not ours. Some of the crafts that you've seen today, like some of the black triangles, I could see it could possibly be ours. Because of course, if aliens advance in technology, so are we. We're not flying the same spy planes that we had back when during the Cold War, like the SR-71 Blackbird or the U-2 or what's the other one, the F-117 Nighthawk. Because once those things come out and they start releasing that to the public, they're not using those crafts anymore, because all the other countries know about them. They moved on to something else as far as advancement in technology. So the ETs have too. I doubt if they're flying the same things that they had back in the 40s and the 50s. So they advance in technology the way we have, but I'm pretty sure some of those black triangles and stuff that you see are probably ours. Now, whether they're completely man-made, I don't know, but pretty sure some of them are probably reverse engineered tech from the crashes that our government has seized and then put out there to private corporations to try to reverse engineer, like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Northrop Grumman. I can never say that name properly. So yeah, but some of them definitely are, but not all of them. I tend to think though, how a lot of people say they see like orbs and they can't see a defining shape within the bright light. Some of these orbs are like an orange color or reddish color or really bright light, and they can't see like a shape beyond it. I always thought that maybe the way the ETs have advanced in tech, and maybe it's almost like a living ship, like basically organic or almost organic. I don't know if any of you guys used to watch that series, used to come on Far Escape. Oh my god, I used to love that. And how that astronaut John Crichton was doing a test run in his ship, and he got sucked into this wormhole that threw him into another galaxy, and he ended up way away from Earth, lost in space, and he got sucked onto this ship. Moya, that's what they called her. She was like a living ship. I mean, she was alive. So I happen to think a lot of these orbs or whatever they call them, people see these glowing objects with these really bright lights that doesn't put off any heat. Maybe things are part living, part organic ships. It would make sense if ETs have advanced that far. I mean, if they're like thousands and thousands of years ahead of course they will. They're not flying the same things they had around in the 40s. Now, maybe some of them are, because it appears to be there seems to be more than one ET here. You have the Greys, you have the Reptilians, you have the Tall Whites, you have the Nordics, which I'm not sure if the Tall White and Nordics are in the same categories, because some people say Tall Whites and other people say Nordics. And then you have the mantis type beings. So I don't know if they're working together and they've all using different crafts, or I don't know. But like I say, if we advance in technology, so are these ETs are advancing in technology. So I don't know. That's just what I wanted to share with you guys, my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Oh my god, the other thing you guys need to watch is, I just finished watching this series on Showtime Max. It's The Man Who Fell to Earth. Not the old one that came out in the 80s, I think, with David Bowie, but the new one. It is so good, you guys. It is so moving and so touching. And I don't want to spoil it for you. I was going to tell you guys certain parts of it, but some of you probably haven't seen it. I think it's about 10 episodes. Yeah, I believe it's 10 episodes, but it is really, really good. I highly recommend you guys check it out. I think I'm gonna go check out and watch Nope this week. Maybe tomorrow. If I don't go see it tomorrow, I'll go see it next Monday. So we'll see. I don't know. I heard some people talking about it on the radio. They didn't give it really good reviews. They didn't give any spoilers, but they didn't give it really good reviews on it. So we'll see. I don't know. Let me think if there's anything else I wanted to talk to you guys about. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to mention about the moon and the dark side and all this talk around the moon and the astronauts capturing images. back in, I think it was 1966. And some of you guys probably already know this. Carl Wolf, he's no longer alive. The late Carl Wolf, he got killed by a motorist. I think he was riding his bike. So this happened a couple of years ago, and he was in the, I believe he was in the an Air Force. Oh, where's my notes? I don't have my notes with me. Let me find them. Maybe I didn't bring them. I don't think I have my notes with me. I don't want to give all wrong information, so I may have to come back on that subject a little bit later. Some of you guys probably know who he is. He worked for he was in the, I believe it was the Air Force. He worked for he was in the Air Force for a couple of years, and he was like I want to say a photography specialist, analyzing photos that came in from like the satellite images up in orbit and all the stuff from the spy planes and stuff. And I think he was sent over to the NSA. At the time he thought it was NASA he was being sent to, but when he got there he realized it was the NSA, and he was brought into this room to work on this equipment. And when he got there, he said all these foreigners were there, and it was like a lot of them there with security, and he thought it was just really weird. He didn't know why all these people were there. They had interpreters there. Anyway, he walked in, he went into the room where he was supposed to be working, and there was another gentleman in there, and at this point he had like top secret clearance or whatever, and he went in there to work on this equipment, and he couldn't get it fixed, so they were going to have to ship the equipment out. So as he was there, him and this other guy was waiting in this room for somebody to come pick up the equipment. The guy told him, by the way, we found bases on the backside of the moon. And there were structures and towers. This was in 1966 now. You know it's not ours, come on. And he showed him, I guess, like the images, and they were like, he said all these huge things that kind of looked like satellite dishes, and they were tall or whatever, and he just couldn't believe it. But at the same time, he got kind of scared, because he knew that this guy wasn't supposed to be telling him this, but the guy really didn't have anybody else to share it with, and he just told him this anyway. And he was talking about how he thought that he was going to hear about that on the news the next day. Nothing. And then following day, nothing. And he was just shocked and saddened by how they discovered this base on the backside of the moon that we see every night looking up into space, the backside of the moon that never turns around. Which some people say the moon was placed there. It was designed to be that way. That's why it doesn't rotate. That's why we never see the backside. It's kind of like the Death Star, I guess, from Star Wars, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I wanted. That's the other thing I wanted to share. They have all this information. Someone has all this information within our government or our military, which I think is the military that's mostly running this show over some of these politicians. I think a lot of these politicians have no clue what's going on, but there's some type of cabal or whatever you want to call them, a group of people who's maintaining this cover up. Now, if it's globally or just people from the United States, because it has to be like a worldwide thing, because you don't get any country coming out and acknowledging that we're being visited or someone is coming here. They all keep a tight lip on this subject, and it's worldwide. It's not just our country. Not one of any of the country will come out and say, yeah, we're being visited. Because you think Russia or China will want to stick it to the United States and be the first ones that come out and be like, yeah, ETs are here, we've recovered their tech or whatever. But not one of them will come out and admit to it. Not one. So that's why I think maybe it's like some type of cabal that's running the global show. Maybe it's ETs, maybe it's hybrids, and they've said something to higher level governments and saying you can't come out and reveal we're here. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. My mind is all over the place with this. But for some reason, these governments around the world won't come out. Not one would come out and admit to something. So I don't know. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Have a good night, you guys, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Bye for now.